Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. This is the first day of the rest of your life. How about that? I don't think I've ever said that before, but it is because each and every week we bring you opportunities to be free, freer, to be more yourself, to find more about you that you discover and you grow and you love and you share. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to, I don't like using just the word empower, inspire, and all that stuff. I don't, we're just here to share unusual stories, philosophies, ideas, strategies, techniques, people doing things that each and every week you come here and you witness and understand how people do things is another day that you stand tall and you say, this is how I'm going to do it. This is what I want. This is the way I'm going. So we got a great show in store. I just want to tell everyone that you can call us at any time during the show on Skype at computers. That's plural. The number 2K voice. You can call us on a phone. Go figure 919-518-9773. And you can come in and on our chat and put your name, nickname, whatever you like there, and answer questions, comment, whatever you like. We want you to come and enjoy the show, partake, ask questions, use this for your purpose. That's what we're here for. So before we get started, I want to say hi to Amnon. How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am just fine, thank you.
Did you have a nice weekend?
I had a pretty good weekend.
Worked. I
Work,
think a
work,
lot of
work.
people work on the
Yeah, I know.
weekends.
Yeah.
Maybe it looks different than it does during the week, but work
Otherwise,
is
what do you
work.
do? Lay around?
I don't know if you love what you do.
Yeah,
There's no like it's not 9 to 5.
exactly.
It can be whatever you do because
Yeah.
it's what
What
we
did you
do.
do?
Well, Saturday, what did I do? I went to a consignment sale with my mother. Oh, it was fun. Thousands of articles of clothing and I don't know how many women, and it was a women's clothing store, and it was a lot of fun and got to meet some really nice ladies, and it was fun, and then, Sunday chilled and did work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
good weekend, right? Okay, so here we go. We're gonna start with our guest, and I am so delighted to welcome Gaelynn Lea to our show today. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, tell everybody who you are.
Well, my name is Gaelynn Lea, and I'm a musician and a public speaker. I started playing violin when I was 10, and in 2016, so many, many years later, I had begun writing songs and I entered a contest and I won. And so I've been touring ever since then with my husband. And so I tour around the country. And then when I'm not playing shows, I also do some public speaking about disability awareness and stuff. So it's kind of a varied tale, I guess.
Well, it's all connected.
Yes, it
Y-
is.
what struck me, and we're going to talk a lot, but what struck me right off the bat is that you didn't start with describing who you were by your disability.
Oh, yeah. No, no, no. I do think the disability is an important part of my identity, but there's so many other things that I am passionate about that that's not the first thing I would lead with. Yeah, no,
Right. So it's not your identity. It's not the identity.
no, it's one of many different identities. I
Many.
mean, you have, I'm sure, many identities yourself, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
being a woman is one of them, but it's not how you lead when you necessarily introduce yourself, right? And
Right.
so being a woman with a disability is not the only way, I think of myself, and it's not usually how I introduce myself either.
So is it the disability that was the stepping stone for you to be a speaker, an advocate, a musician, or what? What is the
Um,
chain of events?
the chain of events is back way when I was like 10 years old. I decided I wanted to try orchestra because I had heard an orchestra play at my school and I really liked the way it sounded. And as a child with a disability, it's not like you walk through life thinking, "Oh, woe is me." You're just kind of adapting in the present to any situation that you want. to accomplish, you're going to have to adapt it to make it work. And so I decided I wanted to do violin, and I knew that I'd probably have to play it a little bit differently. And so luckily I had a teacher that was willing to adapt it with me. So I actually play my violin up and down like a cello. So it's a very different style of playing, but that started first. And then songwriting came second. And that's when I was like 27. I started writing my own original music. And then um, after that, the public speaking came about because when we got married, my husband and I was very frustrated at the way the social service people handled our situation. Like they didn't have a lot of the right answers, and I was getting a lot of bad information. And then on top of it, they weren't being respectful on the phone. And I was saying, it's like, I wish people understood that you need to have compassion in this situation because people who need health care from the government don't have other options. So you can be as mean to them as you want, and they don't have anywhere else to go. It's not the same thing as like, oh, I hate that company, so I'm going to go somewhere else. So I had a friend that suggested, well, there's a conference in our town about for healthcare workers and for social workers. Maybe you should speak at it and kind of express your point of view. So I decided to do that, and I did a bunch of research beforehand and did a 3-hour lecture on disability issues and compassion in the human service professions. And then that kind of got me down the road of public speaking. So that was the last piece of the puzzle, but it's been a good thing because after that conference, everybody in attendance was like, wow, I didn't know a lot of these issues, even though they work with people with disabilities all the time. So I realized that we're not talking about disability rights enough. And so then I wanted to do public speaking to kind of make that part of the dialogue in our society. So that's sort of the long trajectory. So it all kind of came in at different parts, but they are all connected in some way.
You're regardless of disability or not, but you think I like the way you think and the message you carry because you use whatever. So for me, I will use what I can in a good way to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's my being a grandmother and that makes a difference and I can use that as a platform to make a difference in the bigger scheme of things, I will do that. Same
Yep.
thing with my book, same thing with listening, the same thing with the shows. Whatever I can use ultimately to make a difference is what I will use. So if your music got you to be able to speak about disabilities, that's a great thing.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like you have to kind of look at your life and say, well, what am I passionate about? And then what do I think I could contribute? And, how can I connect with the things I'm passionate with the greater good? And that's sort of the last few years have really been about discovering that. I actually had a business coach. I hear you do that. And that was a really big turning point for me because it's really hard to envision yourself as a public speaker if you've never done that before, right? And she's like, no, like do it once, see how it goes, do it a couple more times, get some feedback from the audience, put that on your website, and just say that that's what you do, and you'll get better at it because everything new is scary at the beginning, right? Like nothing like that is ever going to feel comfortable right away. So I was lucky to have some help kind of guiding me through that transitional phase because, yeah, I don't know if I would have had the courage to just do that on a whim or whatever. So, yeah.
And then you did TED Talks besides.
Yep.
So you went from scared to doing TED Talks.
Well, doing a TED Talk while being scared.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course. Because I'm always scared. There's always a fear behind some things that I do, and I do them anyway.
Yeah, like music is much more comfortable for me than like doing a TED Talk, but I think a TED Talk is a really awesome platform and it was a really cool way for me to share two. I've done two so far, and both of those ideas were pretty transformational for me. So to have a chance to really think about the best way to explain them in the shortest amount of time. And it was a good exercise for my brain. And a lot of people have seen them now. So that's cool because that idea can get out in the world.
That's right. It grows that way. So there's been a
Yeah.
lot of things that you have said that I want to isolate a little bit and expand on. And then,
hmm
so first of all, going back to what you said about children,
Yep.
that children don't necessarily see their disability. They're just figuring themselves out in the scheme of things, not realizing, if correct me if I'm wrong, not realizing it's a disability, it's just a thing that they're figuring out in the scheme of things.
Well, I mean, it's a nuanced issue, right? So obviously, there were times where, as a little kid, I was sad that I couldn't walk or do the things that other kids did. But usually, what that would feel like is like it would build up and I would cry and be sad for a while and then it would kind of go away. And so that feeling wasn't constant. And then I also have really awesome parents. Like, I don't know what it would have been like to be in a different family scenario. My parents always told me, if you really want to do it, you'll figure out a way. And and I remember a couple of years after I started playing violin, my mom had told me she was really nervous when I came home and said that's what I wanted to do because she really didn't know how I was going to be able to because my arms are so short that it would have been really hard if we hadn't figured out how to play up and down like a cello. But she just told me, if you really want to do it, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And that message is a really great one, I think, for parents of kids with disabilities, because it doesn't give them any ideas of like it's not worth trying. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
she never said anything like that. But she didn't try to give me all the answers either because I don't think my mom would have figured out that I could play like a cello. She doesn't play a stringed instrument. The teacher had to know that. You know what I mean? So the teacher
Sure.
and I are the ones that figured it out. But my mom still gave me the go ahead and said, if you want to do it, you'll find a way basically. And so that's a thing that a lot of kids with disabilities nowadays, I've been talking to older people with disabilities and then just meeting younger ones on the road, and I think there's a shift in consciousness going on right now. I think disability was always seen as a really negative thing and something to be like upset about or whatever. And I think now um the attitudes are changing where kids don't have shame necessarily, with the right parents and guidance and messaging, right? That you don't have to feel ashamed of your disability because generally, there's more inclusion now than there was even 50 years ago. Kids are being included a lot
Mhm.
more in society. And what needs to catch up now, instead of the attitude of the kids with the disability, what needs to catch up now is the attitude of society, and then also making society more accessible.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if you have a positive outlook if you can't like get into a building. You know what I mean? Like you need
Right.
to have that piece of
Right.
the puzzle
Right.
taken
Right.
care of ahead of time. So
Right.
that's sort of where we're at. We're at a shift, I think, though, because I grew up, 6 years after the American Disability Act was passed, and so most of the places I've been in my life, were accessible or have become accessible in my lifetime. So I didn't grow up, feeling like I couldn't go where I wanted to, or and that still happens. Definitely, not every place is accessible, so we have a lot of work to do. But overall, my disability didn't keep me from doing the things I wanted to do. So I don't have a negative idea of my own identity. But what needs to change is we need to get more accessible as a society just to make it easier. Disability would basically not even factor in a lot of times, except for in a medical situation, if society was accessible. Most of what people think of when they think of disability is man made barriers, employment, healthcare, buildings, all those things are things we could change.
Right. And so, okay, so so going back just a second, so your
hmm
parents held the energy for what was possible, even if they weren't playing their instrument. I love that.
hmm
And the next thing is, so it's like if you can do it, anybody can do it. If you could experience life the way you can, anybody can experience life the way you can, I can, we all can. Right?
Yep, but you need
I'm not special.
no, but you
Right?
need support.
But
So
we need
I did
support.
need support, and if I didn't have that, I would not have had the same life experience. And that's the piece that I don't want people to think that attitude is the only part of the puzzle, because attitude has a lot to do with it. I think the way we like, I'm a pretty optimistic person, and so are my parents, and so obviously I'm less likely to get discouraged, I suppose, than some people. But that being said, if I hadn't had a supportive community or an accessible society where parents, I don't know, I can't say that I would have been able to do whatever I put my
Well,
mind to.
and the thing is, you're the beauty. One of the beauties of you is that you had that. So now you can, in your words, give it to other people who may not have had that.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right?
I mean, that
That's
would be
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. So it's a big thing, and I know you shouldn't, in the scheme of things and the big things, you should not be an inspiration. It should be just matter of fact that this is possible, this is what's being done, but we do
Hmm.
need role models, we need
Yeah.
advocates, we need, people who are gonna knock down a door.
Yep. Yep. I think that's a good way to look at it. Instead of saying inspiration, I like the idea of like kind of, you do need people to pioneer the frontier, right? You
Right,
need you need that happening, and I'm definitely not the only person doing that either. There's tons of really cool advocates out there changing the dialogue and showing
right.
what's possible. Um, but yeah, not looking at it as an inspiration from a point of pity so much as like they're pounding down the doors so that everybody else can get through with less interference, hopefully. That's the
Right.
goal.
So tell
Yeah.
everyone what your disability is. We haven't even discussed it.
Oh yeah, I have brittle bones disease. So before I was, it's called osteogenesis imperfecta. So before I was born, I broke probably like 50 bones in utero. I mean, I don't remember it obviously, and they healed crooked. So my arms and legs are bent. So I've never walked. I got a wheelchair when I was 2.5, an electric wheelchair. So I ruined every door in our house basically.
Right.
Because not no 2-year old is great at driving. But that's my disability, and then throughout life I've broken some bones along the way, but not as many as I could have. The disability varies a lot in severity, and I'm somewhere in the middle basically. So, um, and generally, people with my disability, if they don't get in a major car accident or have a respiratory failure, because my lungs are pretty small, generally your life expectancy is pretty normal and it's a pretty stable disability. So, my life was pretty, standard, except for the times when I'd break things, I guess, as a kid.
Mm.
I could have had a surgery growing up where they broke my bones and then straightened them out and then put casts on them, and they would have maybe straightened out. But my parents, again, I really appreciate my parents. They let me decide if that was something I wanted to do. And ultimately, I decided not to do that because I just, I was having a fun childhood, and who wants to have 4 major surgeries, one for each limb, and wheelchairs were getting better and better. And again, like that's the whole thing about disability not being a negative thing necessarily. It's how your experience in the world is, right? And so for me, having a disability wasn't like something I wanted to escape. And so the older I got, the more I decided I wasn't going to do those surgeries. And so I didn't. And I had already started playing violin by the time I had the choice to make about that surgery, and I didn't want to damage the nerves in my hand so that I wouldn't be able to play anymore. So, yeah, I think disability is really at a turning point for sure for me.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I would say I'd like to say it's at a turning point because we're all at a turning point. So
Well,
every
yeah.
right? I think there's a lot of things that are a turning point. So one of the
Mhm.
things that I mean, I wanna talk to you about everything, but one of the things I wanna talk to you about is the fact and I know that you talk about sexuality
Mhm.
and that you are married.
Mhm.
So can you talk to us some about that? And I wanted
Yeah,
your husband to talk too, but he left
I
us.
know he's shy.
He
Yeah,
ran
he's
away.
not. He's not into the interviews. That's for
Yeah.
sure. He's had to do a few in his day, and he's like, "Oh, I do not like doing those." So, um, I would have had to give him a lot more advance warning if we were going to make that work. So as far as sexuality, when I was 21, I had to write a paper about a political theory book. I was a poli sci major, not a music major. So, um, and in this paper, it was talking about how sexuality had been taken over by capitalism, right? Everybody thinks if I just lose the last 10 pounds, if I just buy this one cute pair of shoes or this dress, or if I just get my hair done at a salon in this way, then I'll be beautiful, right? And then I'll meet the standards. Or if I just buy this diet pill, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things where beauty is taken over and sexuality is taken over by money. And so um, the book was arguing that sexuality um, is taken over by capitalism, but it's not because any of those standards are real. It's literally just because people realize they can make a lot of money if they made everybody feel insecure and buy all their stuff and like they would win, basically, right? And I agreed with this, but I realized that as a person with a disability, especially a visible one like mine, I think it's less so the case if your disability is invisible, like a chronic illness. But for somebody whose arms and legs have always been bent and just never fit the mold of what you see on TV or magazines or whatever, I actually, as I read this book, didn't grow up feeling that pressure to be a certain weight. I mean, nobody even knows what I should weigh. They're like, "Man, you look fine." You know what I mean? Because I'm small,
Yes.
and they have no idea. So,
Right.
so there, I felt like I had never actually had to process the world through that lens of like forcing myself to look a certain way because no matter what I did, I was always going to have bendy arms and legs and like I knew I was never gonna fit that mold. And as a younger person, that kind of made me sad. Like, oh, well, I won't ever be what people think of as beautiful or whatever in our society. But when I read that book and I had to write this paper, I just had like it was like a lightning bolt. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, in some ways, if you want to look at it that way, you could be sad about being left out, but in other ways, it's actually awesome to be left out because I didn't have to waste a lot of my mental energy on like feeling bad about the way I looked or like trying and trying and trying to become a certain way because I just knew it wasn't even an issue. Like it wasn't going to happen. So I had all this free mental space and the freedom to kind of just be who I wanted to be. So I mean, I still do. I dressed like however I liked. I never worried about wearing cool clothes. I mean, that was something that was always the case. But then as I like had this epiphany, I also was like, well, why am I wearing shoes? I don't walk. This is silly. I don't need to wear shoes. And like, why do I shave my legs? I don't like doing that. I hate doing that actually. So I'm going to stop doing that. And so I started kind of just realizing that I was okay the way that I was and that the standards that everybody's talking about are truly artificial. And they're for the purpose of making people money, not to actually make people more beautiful. Because if you look at the human race, we're all so different. There's no way there's one beauty standard. It's just not true. And so after that epiphany, it kind of like shifted my feelings about a lot of things, about just like fitting in norms in general, and my own sexuality, realizing that I wasn't the problem. It's just you have to wait till you find someone that's on the same wavelength as you. And shortly after that, I had my first boyfriend. He is now with a lovely man, so we're not together anymore, but we're friends. He's a good person, and he was my first boyfriend. And then after we broke up, about a year later, I met my husband, um, and we had to have a lot of talks going into it about he's a pretty shy guy and not wanting to stand out all the time. And so it was a bit of an adjustment for him to think like he's going to be with someone who's very noticeable, you know, like people are definitely going to know that we're together. And we weren't sure how people would respond to our relationship, but overall it was positive. And the thing that we talked about and I eventually agreed on is that, first of all, people with disabilities dating able-bodied people. It's never, or just people in general, because people with disabilities are left out of sexuality all the time. That was never going to become normal unless people started seeing it. You know, like you have to see it before it becomes unremarkable. So we figured, like, the sooner people can see that, the sooner they can get over it, kind of, right? And then if they really were going to judge us based on our relationship, they weren't really our friends anyways, right? And it turns out really very few people, except for strangers, have ever said anything weird, you know. And those people just need to catch up, basically. And so sexuality was, it started out as like a kind of a painful area, but it really like shifted a lot after that paper. It's kind of funny that a paper could do that for a person, but writing that really, really, really shifted a lot in my brain, kind of all at once. And that's one of my TED Talks. I ended up getting to do a TED Talk about that. And it was really cool because even though it seems like it just applies to people with disabilities, it doesn't. Once you realize beauty standards are artificial, anyone can realize that. It doesn't. It's just easier for me to see it on the outside looking in. But even if you're on the inside, you can claim your own freedom that way and
How,
just be
how old are
yourself.
you? How old are you?
I'm 34,
34. And you've been married how long?
almost 5 years, but we've been together for 12 years.
So you have such an incredible, for anybody. I mean, I'm not even thinking disability. I'm just thinking anybody. You have such an incredible outlook and such it. I mean, like you really have been able to clarify things for yourself, and
Hmm.
you're a good wordsmith. You're able to put these experiences of how it can be, should be, into words that are that are approachable for anyone,
Yay.
for anybody.
Yeah.
And your mom is on the chat, by the way.
My mom is?
Yeah, and I want to mom. And she said, okay, so she signed in as mom, and I asked
Are
her
you
if
kidding
you were
me?
her mom, and she said yes. And then I said, you are. I said, welcome. You're amazing because I hear you, and I've read a little bit about it. And she said, love this kid so much.
Yay.
So
Cool. Wow, that's hilarious. Hi, Mom. I
so
guess she must have seen my Facebook post, huh?
she. Well, you didn't tell her you were going to be on.
I forget to tell my mom so many things these days. It's really bad. We're in Duluth. We're in our hometown, so I have seen her, but I usually forget. Like, what was there was one really big one. I forgot to tell her something pretty big once, and it was bad.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
To you, to because and if I understand it correctly, I mean, you do these things and they're extraordinary and you enjoy them, but they're in some ways they become somewhat common to you. They're just your everyday thing and and your path,
Yeah.
so it's yeah. If you did a big thing and you didn't tell somebody, I can understand. And I want to just say to your mom that if
Yeah.
you would like to call in, I would love to have you call in, and you can call in on 919-518-9773, and you can chat with us a little bit. Yes,
Oh,
Facebook is how I keep track of you.
it's true. It's true. She'll be like, "Where is Galen?" And then she'll log onto Facebook and find out. It's
That's
bad, but it's true.
What is your mom's name?
Peggy.
Peggy. Call us, Peggy. We'd love to hear from you. And Peggy, I think my mother would say the same thing about me as you probably say about your daughter, that she keeps up with me, through other people sometimes. And I mean, she's with me now for the summer, but yeah, because we're on a mission. And sometimes it's too much to share. So you just kind of go with it. But I'd love for you to call in. So please feel free. We'd love to have you.
That's so funny.
It is
Oh.
funny. It's great. So I want to just get back a little bit to to the intimacy between you and your husband.
Yeah.
So you met, how did you meet?
We met at a bar through
Okay.
friends, basically. When
Okay.
I was playing at an open mic,
Uh-huh.
but I was already done playing when he came. He didn't actually know I was a musician the first day that we met. And then like he had a group of friends come in, and I had a mutual friend in that group, and we all started hanging out. What we really love to do is go camping and be outside. So our groups of friends, we all went camping together the first time we like hung out after our introduction, and it was a really fun trip. And like that's sort of what we love to do when we get time.
Because there's a lot of campsites that are that have been, I know, have wide paths and make it easier for wheelchairs, right?
Yeah, actually, it's gotten way better, and
Mhm.
we have something that's really fun called a accessible tent, and it was a prototype. I wish that it was still made, but we were able to buy a prototype of this tent that I can unzip the main doors and drive my chair in and park it and zip it up, and then there's another set of doors where the sleeping area is, so my wheelchair can stay dry and safe overnight
Mm,
outside. It's pretty cool. So we camp a lot.
mm.
Well, we have camped a lot. The last couple of years we've been traveling a ton, but we haven't been camping because we've been on the road so
Well, you're
much.
camping on the road, and just your mom says, "I wish I could call in. I'm at work, and they don't know I'm messing around on the computer." So Peggy, I hear you. And what I would say is, if there's anything you want to tell us about your daughter that you would tell us on the phone, but you can't, if you type it in, I'll tell everybody.
That's awesome.
I will be the
Yep.
one. I would love,
Yep.
we have on the show, we've had this couple before who actually are dear friends of mine and my husband's as well. And he has cerebral palsy. He's had it since he was forever.
Born.
And his
Yep.
wife is able-bodied, and they wrote a book together. It was very interesting. And they talk about, how they'll have sex in the wheelchair. And they really, they're a wonderful couple, and I interviewed Barton for my book on men, and it was just so interesting. And I remember telling myself and other people that when I was gonna go do the interview, Megan wasn't gonna be there. And normally when we get together, it was the 4 of us, and sometimes I
Yeah.
couldn't always understand Barton, and she understood everything he said. So if I
Yeah.
didn't understand something, my husband didn't understand something, she would say, "Oh, Barton just said this," or, and we'd all laugh and stuff. Well, the day I went to interview him, she wasn't gonna be there, she was at work. I was so nervous. I cannot begin to tell you, because I was concerned I wouldn't understand what he was saying, and it's hard to interview someone when you can't understand them.
Yeah.
So I went, and you know what? I understood every little thing he said. And at
Cool.
the very, very end of the interview, I said to him, I was a little worried when I was coming here that I wouldn't be able to understand you. And he just laughed. He laughed at
Yep.
me, and I laughed, and it was such a it was a moment beyond moments, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
It was great. And so, I don't know, it's just we have these experiences, and they show us so much about all of us, and
Hmm.
the way we can connect.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that's one of the things we do here at the Breaking Free show is, in a sense, I agree with you. I like to commercialize things in a way
Uh-huh.
that so they're not such a stigma,
Oh yeah.
right? Just like as you
Yep.
said, right?
Yeah.
So the more we show it, the more we talk about it, the less people will trip over it,
Hmm. Yeah,
right?
I totally agree with that.
So let me see if your mother said anything. Oh no, she didn't say anything yet. So your husband, can you have children?
I can't because my lung capacity is so small. So we've talked about adopting, and I mean, that was sort of like the 5-year plan, but then I won the Tiny Desk contest
Right.
and we started touring, and I just can't even picture doing that right now. You know what I
And
mean?
you're still young too, so
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm only 34 and he's 37, and so we still talk about it. Like we definitely like to at least adopt one kid eventually, and then we'll just kind of see. Like I feel confident that I could keep one human alive, and then I don't know about 2 or 3. I don't know.
Right.
Because I mean, parenting. My siblings are all going through that right now. Parenting is an intense
Yeah.
thing, man. I mean, it's awesome. But like, holy cow. So one kid, I'm like, yes, that would be awesome. I don't know about 2 or 3. Who knows?
And
But
do you care whether the child has a disability or not? If you adopted?
no, I mean, I don't care. I've thought about maybe trying to, because some, like in Russia, mostly Russia is what I've seen. Kids with my disability are often put up for adoption. I'm sure there's other countries too. And I've thought about how it would be kind of cool to adopt a kid with my disability, but a lot of the personal care stuff would have to come from Paul or a helper. So, one thing that people don't think about when you talk about parenting with an adult parent with a disability taking care of a kid is, rich people have nannies all the time, right? And we don't think like, oh, those bad rich people with their nannies. So if I had a kid, in order to take some of the pressure off of Paul, I would probably have a personal care assistant helping me do the actual like lifting of the kid, because parenting is mostly about a lot of the relationship that you're building with the kid. And I've seen little children with parents who have disabilities, and if they're used to it, it's not I don't know how to explain, but like a little girl, for example, that I saw on the bus with her dad in a wheelchair, she wasn't running up and down the aisles because he couldn't have stopped her, but there was sort of an understanding of like, well, I gotta behave on this situation because that's what I need to do. You know what I mean? So kids learn differently.
They learn differently.
So I've thought about if we adopting a kid with a disability similar to mine, because I think I would know about how to deal with that, obviously, or not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. I think it has to be. I mean, adoption, from what I've heard, is sort of like a magical alchemy of like all these things coming together. So it's kind of hard to predict what you would do or what kid you'll have a chance to adopt. You know what I mean? So it seems like it can be a pretty windy road from the people I know who have adopted. So I try not to put too many expectations on it.
No, there's never any guarantees, that's for sure.
With any kid.
With any kid.
No matter what. Yep, no, exactly.
But you do, I've seen children with, a parent who has, they have to use sign language, and there's different things, and the kids learn they learn to be another way. So
yep. And it's not weird to them because that's like literally just the life they grew up with.
And you don't know any different. It is what it is.
Exactly.
It's just,
exactly.
Right? In some ways, that just makes the world a bigger place.
It does. Yeah. In a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways. We had, have you ever seen Teal, Teal? I can't remember what her last name is, but she was an actress. She was in TV. She did a YouTube show for a long time. I'm not sure she's doing it still, comedy. And she had been in a wheelchair. She had an accident as a teenager, and she had a son, and I follow her on Facebook and stuff, and it's all very interesting. So let's talk about some of your music too.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that. Talk about this award that you got this in 2000, the NPR award.
Yeah, so National Public Radio hosts a contest every year. They've done it for 4 years now, and on the second year I entered it. And what you have to do is you film a video of you singing an original song in front of a desk, because they want to know that it's made for that contest, not some video that you had for years and years. So I filmed this video of one of my songs, and in order to pick the song, I had the people at a pizza shop gig like vote on the song they liked the best out of 3, and so I picked the one that won and made a video up in my office on my phone. I'm talking to you right now on Skype on my phone, so like I don't have a video camera. So my friend filmed it, and then we submitted it, and you don't hear anything for like a month. And one day I was teaching violin lessons, and I checked my email in between lessons, and it was National Public Radio, and they said, "Hey, we want to talk to you today, preferably if we can." And so I set up a phone meeting with them, and it was the moderator of the contest, and Bob Boylan, he also runs a show called All Songs Considered, and he had talked about how much he liked the music that I've put out and blah blah blah. And then finally, at the end of the conversation, he's like, we want to name you the winner of this contest," which was a big deal because it was 6,100.
Wow.
I think, yeah, which was very very surprising. I mean, especially since my video was filmed on my phone. I
That just
really
goes to show you can do it, right?
Well, yeah, and they were obviously looking for a song. It wasn't about the video, but you never know if people are just saying that or what. You know what I mean? So,
Well, you won.
yeah, so I won, and that was really cool. And then I went out to DC like a week and a half later and filmed a video called the Tiny Desk Concerts, and it's like 4 songs, and that has had like 1.5 million views or something ridiculous since 2016. And then we started touring because I got a lot of requests after that to play kind of all over the country and actually some other countries. And so my husband and I did a lot of talking. I mean, this was not part of the plan at all. And we had just gotten married a couple of years before. So, neither of us were thinking about this as a possible lifestyle. And so we talked about it a lot, though, and we decided we wanted to try touring. And he got a leave of absence from his job, and I rehoused all my students into different teachers. And we took off, and after his leave of absence expired, we decided to keep going because it was going well, and we wanted to keep touring. It's really fun to travel. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work, I think, than people think about. It's definitely not like a vacation, but it's really fun work, and you get to see. We've been to 42 states and 7 countries, I think. So, I mean, that's pretty cool in a year and a half to have traveled that much.
So
I guess it's about 2 years now.
are you becoming famous now?
I mean, fame is a very elusive thing, right? It's all very relative.
Yeah.
But what is unique and what I wasn't expecting is you'll go to like another city like Montreal or somewhere that you haven't been a lot, and somebody on the street will be like, "Hey, you're that person," you know what I mean? And so I guess if that's what fame is, then there's some level of that. I mean, my music is pretty it's not like mainstream pop music, so I don't think I'll ever be like Taylor Swift, right? Like there's a level where the music has to be a certain sort of style, I think, before everybody relates to it. However, I'm releasing a new album in 3 weeks that I'm really excited about. That is a full band project, which is new. I've never worked with a full band on my own music before, and that album is a little more accessible because it's just a little, more upbeat or whatever. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I just think of it as like a slow development, and I don't want to put expectations on it because even small shows where there's only 20 people can be really fun if the audience is tuned in. And so far, we've been really lucky to have cool audiences.
Yes.
Pretty much everywhere we've played. So it's not like the size necessarily makes you happier. I don't think that's true, actually. So just trying to enjoy the moment. But it's definitely changing our life path for sure.
It's exciting.
It is exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah. The new album is exciting for me because it's a bunch of songs that I couldn't play by myself. So that's why, because I wrote them, but I don't necessarily write ones that I can loop on my violin by myself. It's kind of a long story there, but the way I play solo is I use a looping pedal. It's a recording device, and I'll press the button down and hold it and play. And then when I let go, it plays back, and I can add layers up and play and then I can sing over the top of all these layers. But that only works for songs that have repetitive chord structures. So some of the songs I write aren't like that, and so I couldn't play them by myself, and that's why having a band was really fun for me to create a piece of music that could go outside the realms of what I could do on my own. And it's a fun creation process.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and the fact that the reception, and I love going into, like, I wanna speak in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I want to be in a big hall speaking to
Uh-huh.
thousands of people, helping to support people's journey, right? But at the
Hmm.
same time, I love being in a small little living room with 10, 20 people, really, like, getting into it. So,
Hmm.
every opportunity is exciting. So, before I
Yeah.
we go on to talk more about the music, as I want to, I just wanna tell everyone once again, which I haven't told you in a little while, but please feel free to call in 919-518-9773, or you can come in on, Skype at computers, that's plural, then the number 2, K Voice, and there's still time to come in on our chat and ask questions, so please feel free to put your name under the video, and we'd love to see you in there as well. There's still time to get in on this phenomenal conversation and ask your questions or make a statement or comment, whatever you like. Maybe you have a question that you would like to ask, because this is open. We can talk about anything, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we want to do that. I mean, this is the way we rock and roll here. So
Cool.
how would you identify your style of music?
I would probably call it like up until this point more just traditional folk. But then the new album is definitely more like folk rock. It's a little bit louder
Mhm,
and more um, aggressive is not the right word. But there's a song on there, for example, about the disability rights movement
mhm.
and taking it more seriously. And it's actually like kind of an angry song, which is not like anything I had written before. But during all the healthcare debates, I had a lot of like powerful emotions, and I wrote this song. And having a full band to back it up really gives it a degree of power that I couldn't have gotten on my own. So I would say folk rock is probably what I would call it. Um,
Americana? Is
yeah.
it considered Americana?
Uh, Maybe. I mean, man, genres are hard. The thing about this album, especially, is there's a couple of traditional fiddle tunes. There's a song that's definitely sort of like a country song. There's like a rock song. There's one that's a little more atmospheric. Like, there's a lot of different sounds on it. And I know
Mhm,
everybody says that, but this, I mean, someday you'll have to hear it because it really is pretty varied.
mhm.
Because I personally, when I listen to music, I don't want to hear the same song 8 different ways, right? Like I really
Right.
like variety, and I'm kind of maybe like a little overly cautious of sounding too much the same on any one project. I really love it when an album ebbs and flows and you can experience a wide range of emotions on an album too. I think that's important, and that's what I tried to accomplish on this project. And I think emotionally, that's like how you could identify it. It's just like kind of a roller coaster, which is fun for me.
So I know that you're not prepared to play any music, but
Eh,
is there a line from one of your favorite songs that you would either like to say or kind of sing it to us? Just a line or 2?
yeah, I'm trying to think which song. I don't know. I mean, there's a song that I wrote. I went to the State Department in May of 2017, and I performed there and met a bunch of the people that work at the State Department, um, and their whole job, even under this current administration, is to keep connections with all the countries that we work with. And then also, this particular office where I played is the Human Rights Office. And so the goal is to spread the message of like disability rights, for example, to other countries and like work together to make disability rights better. So I met someone there that said there's a saying in diplomacy that the secret to diplomacy is being willing to meet in the middle of the last 3 feet. So I wrote a song called The Last 3 Feet. He actually challenged me. The State Department worker was like, you should write a song about that. And I don't usually randomly write songs based on people's challenges, but that sentence really resonated with me. And so I don't know if I can sing you the words of the song, but that song is a special one to me, I guess, because of the message behind it, of like forgiveness and how do you meet at the middle of the last 3 feet. I don't know. You'll have to hear it. It's coming
Okay.
out in less than 3 weeks. I'm really excited about it.
Well,
So,
we'll have to listen. And so tell her. So this is a perfect time for you to tell everyone like where they go to look for your stuff.
oh yeah. Well, the website is violinscratches.com. So like a cat scratch, violinscratches.com. My name is Gaelynn, and then Lee is Lea. It's spelled wrong up on that thingy. Sorry, it's Lea, Gaelynn Lea, and it'll be, I have a Facebook page and Twitter and Instagram. But the album, the best place to find that would be that violinscratches.com. There's a tab that says album, and you click on that, and it'll take you to the new music. You can already, oh, perfect, thank you. You can already listen to 3 of the tracks have been released already. So if you want to hear them, they're already up.
Cool.
And you can find the link to that there. So
Good. We'll have to go listen.
It'll be fun.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
really
have to go
excited
listen.
about it.
So where do you see yourself headed?
Well, I am inspired to meet people like you that have done a lot of different things because I want to keep touring. I really actually enjoy that. I mean, literally, I look back at my pictures for the last 2 years, and it's just like so many memories. So the next step, when I'm not on the road, is I really want to start writing about our experiences because, first, I don't want to forget them, and second of all, I think we've learned a lot from other people with disabilities that we've met. Just the experience of being an artist with a disability touring, there's a lot more barriers, accessibility wise, that there's things that are not right yet that need to be fixed to make the arts more accessible, and I have a lot to say about that. And so I'd like to write a book, for real, just kind of reflecting on our path and the accessibility in our society and how we view disability, and how that's changing. And then I don't know, and then we'll see what happens with this album. I'd like to write more music. I have one other song that's not on the album that I wrote since then, but I want to keep writing. It's not something that I just like write a song a day or anything. It takes me a while to get out a whole album,
Right.
And then yeah, besides the book, speaking is always fun. I love playing for kids, and um, at schools I do that a lot. And even if I were to start playing bigger shows, I would want to try to still go to schools because I think that's a really important place to shape the minds of the younger generation.
Right.
Yeah, and
I
then
think
finding a
it's
balance. It's like the elusive balance of like work life, home, away. We were gone for 9 months last year, so we were not home very much. And someday, I would like to find a balance that's a little more even, so that I can work on creative things from my house, and then go out and share them the rest of the time. We haven't found that balance yet, I don't think.
Well, the nice thing is that you get to travel with your husband.
Yes. Oh, there's no way I'd want to do it otherwise. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
someday
fun.
I'd like to do that too. I'd like to my husband to be, in a nice way, like, my hubby, my roadie.
We call him the road huz.
The road hoe.
The road, no, the road huz.
Oh, the road huz. Can I borrow that?
Yeah. Yeah. He
All
calls
right,
himself the road huz all the time.
Let's hashtag that.
Road huz. Yeah, I should start that hashtag, man. I never thought about that. He does a great job of it, but it's, you have to find actual things for them to do. Like Paul drives and he sets up all my gear and he sells the merch. And I think if he didn't have a job, he would be bored. Like it wouldn't be worth it for him to go. But we're really in it together. He's also helping me book shows. I'm doing my own booking right now.
Well, it's a family business. It's a family business.
It totally is. And I think if it wasn't a family business, it wouldn't be fun for him, to just like be around with no purpose. But we found ways to divide it up. And we're still learning. I mean, holy cow, we're together like 24 hours a day right now. I mean, he's not home right now, but man, when we're on the road, we're together a lot. So we're trying to learn that system too.
Right.
I mean, working together is not something we ever thought we'd be doing. It's really interesting. It's fun, but it's challenging.
It is. Well, it's always challenging to have a family business and be with somebody a lot. but
Yeah.
but it can be done, and
Yep.
where there's a will, there's a way and a purpose. So
And I love
you
meeting
can,
other people on the road doing that. It's
right,
really cool to
right, right,
connect with
right,
them.
right. And I'll tell you something. I can see you doing again. I can see you having a show like this, being able to
Yeah,
talk
we're talking
to.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, and if you ever
Mhm.
want to, you should talk to Amnon because you could do it from anywhere. But I could see you doing a show and, just having interviewing all kinds of people, but maybe really do focus on people with a disability and being able to say, share their stories.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, think
I
about it.
Life is long, hopefully, right? So
Yeah,
the goal
yeah,
is to have all these different phases. But I know the book is the next thing I want to do for sure.
hmm
And then after that, something like that, with like a show, would be kind of a cool. Yeah, there's a lot out there.
yeah.
There's a lot.
There's it's endless. It's
Yeah.
endless. I mean, I am doing. I was telling you before we went live, and a lot of my audience already knows that I'm doing a series of books. And I'm doing, I did one on men. I just launched my twin book, which is on Amazon. They're both there. Next will be millennials and divorcees, and a friend of mine, a friend of mine mentioned a that I should do a book on in just one afternoon, listening to the hearts of swinging couples. I mean, it's
Well,
endless
yeah,
to understand people, right?
it's true. There's so many
There's
different types.
so many. So it's life is full of these, ways that we get to connect and understand each other so that we can, live in a better way. And that's
Or
how we get to peace. But I also just one second, Amnon, can you show my so just so I let everybody know I'm having a huge event on September 13th,
oh,
which is a book launch for my in just one afternoon listening to the hearts of twins, and that will be here in Raleigh, North Carolina on September 3rd from 6 to 9 at the conference center at the American Institute of Health and Fitness. And the thing about this is I'll have a panel of twins. I'm not going to just be there signing books. I would hate that. I'd like to make it really valuable. So I will have a panel of twins talking about relationships, talking about how they meander through their conflict, and we all get to learn from each other about how we uh, better handle our relationships, how we have go deeper with our relationships, and twins have offer a great lens into relationships. And I'm really excited to say that my mother is 93 and she's been on our show many times, and she is a twin, an identical twin. And my
oh,
aunt is coming for the first time in years. And so they both will be on the panel along with some other twins. So it's going to be extraordinary. So if anyone has
well,
any questions, and if you are a twin, please feel free to come and share because it will be a whole big room of people sharing all kinds of information. If you have twins, if you're a sister or brother of twins, if you have no twins at all, but just want to understand relationships better, please feel free to come. So, Gaelynn Lea, in closing, because we only have another moment, what words of wisdom and breaking free can you share with us?
I think the biggest game changer for me was to think about the things I was passionate about in my life and find small ways to connect with them every day. So I knew that I wanted to do music, right? So I started out teaching fiddle, and that was a way to connect. And performing is the way I'm doing it now. But if I can't perform someday, I want to find another way to connect with music. And so it doesn't have to look the same your whole life, but finding ways to connect with your passion on a pretty much daily basis, that really helped make me move into alignment with what I'm all about. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I think that's really important that we keep our options open,
Hmm.
right? Because
Exactly.
yeah, because that's how we grow, and new opportunities avail all the time. We just have
Hmm.
to be seeing them. So,
Yep.
with that, I want to thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
It's
Thanks.
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You are very welcome, and we've waited a long time for this opportunity. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank all of you out there for being here with us today and sharing in these moments with us on the Breaking Free Show. Every moment is an opportunity, and every step, I like to say, is a freedom step. So today, I hope you take, I don't care whether it's a big toe, a little toe, just a teeny tiny granule step forward. Do that today into your freedom. And we love you and we're glad you're here. And we look forward to seeing you next week. If I can answer any questions for you, please feel free to contact me at marylynshannon.com. And once again, Gaelynn Lea, you are a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a delight. And everyone, take care. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.